There's a moment, just before your life unravels, where everything feels perfect. That's how I remember that night. September breeze coming in through the windows, the faint smell of pine from the candles she insisted on lighting even in warm weather, and that jazz playlist she loved humming to while she cooked. Sinatra was crooning something about luck being a lady, and my biggest worry was whether we'd have enough Cabernet for the guests. My name's Jake Mercer. 39, part-time optimist, full-time insurance broker. Not exactly the sexiest job title, I know, but I'm good at it. People trust me. Maybe a little too much. The house was buzzing. Friends from college, neighbors I mostly liked, and a handful of her coworkers whose names I never really nailed down. And there was my wife, Grace. Red dress, perfect hair, the kind of laugh that made people feel like they were in on a secret. She worked in digital marketing, whatever that meant, and had a knack for knowing what everyone wanted to hear. "Babe," she said, squeezing my arm in the kitchen. "You remembered to put out the gluten-free crackers, right?" "Of course," I replied, nodding like I hadn't just eaten half the box out of confusion. That's the thing about Grace, she managed the details, the image, the script. I just showed up and delivered my lines. People said we were the perfect couple. And on nights like this, I almost believed them. Almost. The party wound down around midnight. Laughter faded. Dishes stacked. Wine bottles emptied. Grace disappeared upstairs with one of her friends, Carmen, I think, to show her the new master bathroom, whatever code that was. I stayed behind, quietly loading the dishwasher like any good husband auditioning for sainthood. That was the night I noticed something strange. A gift bag on the dining room table. Navy blue with silver ribbon. Not one I remembered putting out. Inside? A single cufflink. Gold. Initials engraved. Not mine. I turned it over in my hand, the metal cold and unfamiliar. Then I found the note, folded so neatly it looked like it had been ironed. "You always forget something. Thought I'd remind you this time. A." There was no A on our guest list. No one Grace had ever mentioned. And I couldn't shake the feeling that the reminder wasn't for me at all. Of course, I had no idea that this tiny, shiny piece of metal would soon become the pin that popped the illusion I'd been living in for years. But hey, at least the party was a hit. The next morning, Grace was all sunshine and coffee. She floated around the kitchen humming like she hadn't just hosted half the neighborhood and received a mystery cufflink from a phantom named A. I, on the other hand, was trying to figure out whether I was losing my mind or just being slowly invited into a very exclusive humiliation club. So, I asked casually, pouring my coffee and keeping my tone flat, who was the guy with the gold cufflinks? Grace looked up from her phone, one eyebrow raised. "What guy?" "Last night. Someone left a gift bag with one gold cufflink in it. Engraved. Initials, AS." Her face didn't change. That was Grace's special power. Never flinch. Never blink. "Probably a prank," she said with a shrug. "You know how Carmen gets after 3 glasses of red. Drama queen." Then she laughed and leaned over to kiss me on the cheek. "Don't go full detective on me, Sherlock." Cute. But the thing was, Carmen wasn't the type to gift anything that didn't come in a Sephora bag or with a receipt for easy returns. And I may not have been Sherlock Holmes, but I knew how to read people, especially the one I'd been married to for almost 7 years. Something didn't add up. And when things don't add up, someone's hiding the calculator. I decided not to press. Not yet. Instead, I did what any man with a nagging sense of dread and a slow weekend would do. I went online. Opened up a private browser window, because even suspicion has a little dignity. I typed in, "custom gold cufflinks engraved AS Hartford area." Nothing useful. Nothing immediate. I scrolled through photos of accessories I couldn't afford and fake reviews written by bored interns. Until I saw it. A local boutique. High-end men's accessories. They posted a picture on Instagram of a pair of cufflinks with the same font, same engraving style. For a very exclusive client, the caption read. I clicked on the boutique's tagged location. 15 minutes from my office. My stomach turned in slow, deliberate circles. That night, Grace was on her laptop, supposedly working on a client campaign. I watched her fingers dance across the keys, perfectly rehearsed. She didn't look up once. I sat there pretending to read, heart pounding in my ears. I knew I was close to something. I just didn't know yet that I was about to wish I'd never found it. Monday morning, I walked into the boutique like I belonged there. Which is funny, because the cheapest thing in that store probably cost more than my monthly car payment. A guy in a vest with a man bun and too much confidence greeted me. Looking for something specific, he asked, eyeing my $45 shoes with silent judgment. I'm here about a custom order, I said. Gold cufflinks. Initials AS. His smirk wavered, just a little. You'd have to speak to Samantha. She handles special orders, he said, gesturing toward a back room like I was being sent to the principal's office. Samantha was tall, stylish, and sharper than most kitchen knives. She took one look at me and didn't even try to fake a smile. You're not Alan, she said flatly. I blinked. Alan. She tilted her head. Alan Sloan. He picked up those cufflinks last Thursday. Is there a problem? I stared at her, the pieces clicking together like a puzzle that spells out "You're an idiot" in giant block letters. Alan Sloan. Grace's new client. The guy she mentioned 3 times last month with just enough casual detachment to make it suspicious. There it was. Name. Proof. A gold accessory trail straight to my doorstep. No problem, I said, my voice tight. Just confirming something. She gave me a look. 1 part curiosity, 2 parts pity. I didn't need her sympathy. I walked out of there with a buzzing in my ears, like the world had turned the volume up just to watch me squirm. I got into my car, shut the door, and stared at the steering wheel like it might offer answers. Alan Sloan. I Googled him. Corporate real estate. Lots of LinkedIn endorsements. Widower. Mid-40s, silver fox type. Lives in the city. Apparently, also good at helping married women rebrand their personal life strategies. That night, Grace acted like nothing had changed. Made pasta. Poured wine. Said, "You okay? You've been quiet." I nodded. Just a lot on my mind. She smiled. We should take a trip soon. Somewhere warm. Reset. Oh, Grace. You want warm? You're about to find out what it's like to stand in a 5-alarm fire. I knew now. There was no turning back. No salvaging this with couples therapy and heartfelt apologies. She had made her choice. Now it was time I made mine. There's a strange calm that hits a man once the truth finally lands. It's like standing in the eye of a hurricane, chaos all around, but the center? Silent, focused, and very, very cold. That was me on Tuesday. I didn't scream, didn't confront, didn't cry. I took all that energy and buried it deep, like a time capsule of fury I'd dig up when the moment was right. Grace kissed me on the cheek as she left for her morning jog. I looked down at the laptop she left open on the kitchen table, an email from Alan S. Subject line, last night was, that's all I needed to see. I didn't open it. I didn't need the punctuation. I just needed a plan. First step? Leverage. Now, I'm not a tech genius. I don't know how to hack the Pentagon or clone a phone. But I do know how to read, and I had a friend, Benny, who owed me a few favors from our college days. Benny's the type of guy who could make your blender print out receipts if you asked nicely and paid him in beer. I called him up. Jake, my man, Benny answered, voice like he hadn't aged a day. Still married to Miss America? There was a pause. A heavy one. Not for long, I said. He whistled. All right then. What are we cooking? I told him everything. I mean everything. He didn't laugh. He didn't pity me. He just got to work. By Wednesday, I had what I needed. An Access clone of Grace's emails, text logs, and calendar going back 6 months. Turns out, Alan wasn't the first. Just the most recent. There was a brief affair with someone named Evan in Q4 last year. A conference in Chicago that never actually happened. 2 hotel bookings, one in her maiden name. She was good. I'll give her that. Meticulous. Strategic. Careful. But not careful enough. And now? Now I had receipts. I spent Thursday building a little vault. Not the kind with steel doors and spinning locks. No, this one lived in the cloud, password protected, with a folder labeled legal insurance. Copies of everything. Dated. Timestamped. Cross-referenced with her phone GPS data that Benny somehow scraped from a backup. Don't ask me how. I didn't want to know. Friday, I met with a lawyer. Marcy Lane. Sharp, no nonsense, and with a smile like she'd eaten 3 cheating spouses for breakfast. You sure about this? She asked, flipping through my neatly organized file. As sure as a man gets when he realizes he's been renting out his dignity for years, I said. She nodded. With this evidence, you'll keep the house, avoid alimony, and probably get a judge who will let you keep the dog too. That's a clean cut. What about exposure? I asked. You mean, do we go public? I shook my head. Not yet. But I want the option. She grinned. Jake, honey, by the time we're done, you'll have more options than a buffet line. I left her office lighter. Not happy. Not even close. But lighter. Because for the first time since this all began, I was holding the pen now. And the next chapter? It wasn't going to be a romance. It was going to be a reckoning. That night, I went home and made dinner. Chicken marsala, Grace's favorite. She came in, cheeks flushed from a workout or guilt or both, and dropped her keys in the bowl by the door. Smells amazing, she said, kissing my cheek like she hadn't detonated our marriage in secret. I smiled. Thought we could use a quiet night. She poured wine. We clinked glasses. To us, she said. I said nothing. Later, as she loaded the dishwasher, I leaned against the counter and asked, "You ever think about what would happen if one of us slipped?" She looked up, eyes narrowing just slightly. Slipped? Yeah. Did something? Broke the vows. Stepped out of line. She chuckled, too quickly. Why? You thinking of robbing a bank or something? I didn't laugh. I just held her gaze until she shifted uncomfortably. We've been through a lot, Jake, she said, suddenly solemn. But we always come back, don't we? We do, I said, nodding slowly. But some things you don't come back from. Some things you walk past, and the bridge just burns itself behind you. She didn't answer. Just stared at the sink like it had started asking questions of its own. I went to bed early. She stayed downstairs. Probably texting him. Probably imagining a life where I just disappeared quietly into some footnote. But I wasn't disappearing. I was preparing. And she had no idea. Saturday morning started with pancakes and poison, metaphorically, of course. Grace waltzed into the kitchen like we were still living in a sitcom marriage, all sleepy eyes and robe tied just right. Pancakes? You're spoiling me, she said, sliding her arms around my waist. I smiled, flipping one on the griddle. Just figured you deserved something sweet. And she did. Because the rest of what I was planning for her wasn't going to be sweet at all. You know what they say, always serve the appetizer before the reckoning. She pecked my cheek and sat at the counter, scrolling through her phone like she wasn't a walking lie in yoga pants. I watched her from the corner of my eye. No guilt. No hesitation. She was either a phenomenal actress or truly believed she could have it all and never pay the tab. We ate in silence. I let her think we were okay. That the night before was just a weird philosophical moment from a man working too hard and sleeping too little. Hey, she said, my mom wants us to come by for dinner tomorrow. I told her you might be swamped. Translation, I don't want you there. Tell her I'll make it, I said, sipping my coffee slowly. She blinked. Really? Sure, I said, without a blink. Can't avoid your family forever. Because soon enough, I wouldn't have to avoid anyone. I'd be free. That afternoon, I set up the second phase. Remember Alan Sloan? Mr. Cufflink? Well, Alan had a schedule. A very reliable one, according to Benny. Gym at 7 a.m. Tuesdays and Thursdays. Office by 9. Tennis at the country club every Sunday at 11. It was almost too easy. I made my way to the club. Signed up for a trial membership under a fake name, a Harvey Dent. Yes, like the Batman villain. Couldn't resist. By noon, I was sitting in the club's outdoor lounge sipping a club soda, watching Alan smack tennis balls like he had no idea he was about to become the unwilling guest star in a domestic thriller. When he finished his match, he walked right past me, towel slung over one shoulder, smug and sun-kissed. I waited until he sat down, then made my move. Alan Sloan, I said, sliding into the chair across from him. He looked up, eyebrows raised. Do I know you? No, I said. But you know my wife. Grace Mercer. His jaw tightened ever so slightly. His eyes darted, then settled into that corporate smile people use when they're trying not to look like they've been caught. Look, man. I held up a hand. Relax. I'm not here to fight. I'm not even here to yell. He leaned back slowly, trying to regain control. Then what are you here for? To offer you a deal, I said. His face twisted with amusement. A deal. You walk away. Today. Cold turkey. You vanish from her life, delete the messages, block the number, and never speak her name again. Alan scoffed. And why would I do that? Because I know your company, I said. I know about your last affair. The intern. The NDA. I know about the sexual harassment complaint that was dropped suspiciously fast. His smirk evaporated. You've been digging. Oh, I've been shoveling, I said with a smile. And if you don't walk, I drop the files. I send them to the board, to your ex-wife, to your daughter at Penn State. I'm not here to win Grace back. I'm here to torch every bridge between you two so she has no place left to run. His silence told me I'd landed the punch. He looked down, exhaled, then muttered, You don't love her, do you? I shook my head. I did. But I love peace more. And now, I want justice. Alan stood. No handshake. No reply. Just a nod of reluctant surrender. He knew the game was over. By the time I got home, Grace was in the garden, pruning roses like we were living in some domestic fantasy land. "Hey, where'd you go?" she asked. "Ran a few errands," I said, walking over and kissing her forehead. "Thinking about getting a new hobby. Tennis, maybe." She laughed. "Tennis? You? Who knows?" I said. "Maybe I'm full of surprises." That night, I poured us wine, and we sat on the porch watching the sky turn purple and gold. It was peaceful, quiet, a symphony of smiles and lies. I was giving her one last weekend, one last taste of normal before I yanked the curtain and showed her the Real third act. Because the best revenge isn't loud. It's not messy or violent. The best revenge is delivered cold, wrapped in civility, and signed with a smile. And I was just getting started. Sunday, the day of grace, rest, and awkward dinners with your wife's mother. I'd said I'd come. I meant it. But what I didn't tell Grace was that I'd be arriving a little early. See, her mom, Marjorie, was a classic. The kind of woman who kept her phone's brightness at max and her judgment even brighter. We never truly got along, but I always knew one thing. She hated surprises, unless she was the one springing them. So when I rang her doorbell at 3:45 p.m., she opened it in a flowy sweater, confused but curious. "Jake? I thought dinner was at 5. "Wanted to talk," I said. She narrowed her eyes. "Is Grace okay?" "She will be," I replied. That got her attention. She motioned me in and pointed to the floral armchair she reserved for serious discussions, deaths, divorces, and disappointments. I didn't waste time. I told her everything. The affairs, the emails, the cufflink, Alan Sloan and his shiny scalp. I handed her a printed packet of the highlights, nothing too vulgar, just enough to prove this wasn't a dramatic overreaction from a jilted husband. To her credit, she didn't gasp. She didn't cry. She stared at the paper, then at me, then back at the paper. "Well," she said after a pause, "I did always think she was too good at acting innocent." It wasn't the support I expected, but it was the honesty I needed. "I'm not asking you to pick sides," I told her. "I'm asking for space. When this breaks, and it will, just don't let her rewrite the story." Marjorie nodded, eyes colder than I'd ever seen them. "She'll come crying to me. She always does." "Just hand her a mirror," I said, standing up. Dinner came and went like a polite funeral. Grace noticed the cold tension in her mother's eyes and chalked it up to menopause or a bad casserole. She never was good at reading rooms she didn't think she had to control. The next morning, it began. 8 a.m. sharp. I had Marcy Lane file the papers. Divorce. Irreconcilable differences. No alimony. Assets split, minus the house, which stayed mine. By 9 a.m., Grace had been served. And by 9:15, my phone lit up like Christmas in hell. "Grace, what is this?" "Grace, are you joking?" "Grace, Jake. Answer me. Now." I didn't. Instead, I left the house early, before she got back from yoga or whatever alibi she'd cooked up for her weekly escapism. I went to my office, logged in, and updated my emergency contact information. Then I did the one thing no betrayed husband ever wants to do. I canceled our joint Costco membership. That, more than the divorce papers, might have hit her soul. At 10:04 a.m., she showed up. Not at the office. At home. I watched her on the security feed from my phone. She stormed through the front door, looked around the empty house like it had betrayed her too, then sat on the couch and dialed her phone. She didn't call me. She called Alan. I had the feed muted, but I didn't need audio to know he didn't answer. His name lit up the screen. She stared. Waited. Hung up. And that's when the mask cracked. She curled into the couch, phone in her lap, and cried. Not the performance tears she pulled out at fundraisers or when her favorite influencer got canceled. This was the real thing. Ugly crying. Shoulders heaving. Makeup smudged. I watched, not out of malice, but out of clarity. It was the first time in years I'd seen her without the act. By noon, she was gone. By 2 o'clock, I was back home. On the counter was a note. "Can we please talk? Dinner tonight?" I flipped it over. Blank. No apology. No acknowledgement. Just a peace offering wrapped in emotional IOUs. I didn't respond. Instead, I cooked for myself. Steak. Medium rare. Just how she hated it. At 6:15, the doorbell rang. I opened it. She stood there in that blue sweater I bought her 3 Christmases ago. The one she said made her look too soft. I guess now she was going for irony. "Can I come in?" she asked, voice hoarse. I stepped aside. She walked in slowly, like the floor might reject her. I don't know what to say, she began. I nodded. Then start with the truth. She opened her mouth, closed it, then finally said, it wasn't just about them. It was about me. Feeling invisible. Feeling like everything was a calendar or a schedule. I felt lost. And lying fixed that? No, she said quietly. But it made me feel something. I nodded again. It made me feel something too. She looked up, hopeful. Then maybe. No, I cut in gently. Not what you're hoping. She blinked, tears on the edge again. Jake. I'm not doing this to punish you, I said. I'm doing it to free myself. You had your fun, your feelings, your fantasies. I'm just cashing in the cost. Silence. She sat down, hands in her lap. I stood by the door. What happens now? She asked. Now. I said, you pack. I've got a short-term lease lined up for you. Marcy will handle the logistics. You'll get a fair deal, but not a second chance. She stood up, slower this time. I loved you, Jake, she whispered. I believe you did, I said, but not enough. And just like that, the curtain pulled back. The audience gone. The show over. The house got quieter after Grace left. Not empty. Not hollow. Just quiet. It's the kind of silence that doesn't haunt. It just reminds you that noise once lived there. Her voice on conference calls, the clicking of her heels down the hallway, that hum she did when loading the dishwasher like she was starring in some invisible commercial. Gone. The first 2 days, I half expected her to come back. Not because I thought she had the nerve, but because she always did like second chances. She treated them like coupons, never worth much, but handy when you ran out of charm. But she didn't come back. Not physically, anyway. Instead, she started leaking into the rest of my life. A mutual friend texted, "Hey, heard about the split. You okay?" A colleague asked, too politely, "So? I guess you're flying solo at the gala this year." Then there was Carmen, the one who once helped Grace check out the master bathroom during our party. She emailed me with the subject line, "Unfair. Unfair." The woman who helped my wife cheat in plain sight thought the divorce terms were unfair. I didn't respond. I just screenshotted it and sent it to Marcy Lane with the caption, "New contestant for the Hall of Nerve." Marcy replied, "She's already been inducted. Lifetime achievement." Meanwhile, Grace was still adjusting to her exile. She took the apartment downtown, the one I'd chosen. Quiet, small, modern. No memories. No chance to pretend the past still lived in the throw pillows. She sent me one final message that week. "Grace, I'm sorry. For all of it. I'll be out of the house completely by Friday. If you ever want to talk, not argue, just talk. I'm here." I didn't reply. Because there was nothing left to say. Not to her. Not anymore. I spent that week reclaiming the house, room by room. Not a rage cleanse, just a quiet liberation. I threw out the decorative pillows she obsessed over but never let anyone actually use. Donated the novelty mugs with phrases like, "But first, coffee and wifey." Replaced the framed photo in the hallway. The one of us in Aruba, smiling like fools. Now it was a picture of me and my dog, Cooper, during a hike last fall. Just a guy and his golden retriever, both looking like they had no idea their world was about to shift. I didn't realize how much of this place had been hers until I started reclaiming it. The furniture. The scents. Even the lighting. She liked everything warm, dim, curated. I flipped every bulb in the house to daylight white. It wasn't a protest. It was visibility. Midweek, Benny called. "You alive?" he asked. "Barely," I said. "But breathing." He chuckled. "You know, you're like the calmest angry man I've ever met. No fires, no keying cars, no billboards with her face on it. I prefer my revenge like I prefer my coffee," I said. "Black. No sugar. Slow sipped while reading the morning paper." "Respect," Benny said. "By the way, Alan Sloan just deleted all his social media. His LinkedIn's gone. Even his gym posted something vague about a temporary leave of absence." I smirked. Guess he got the message. And Grace, still trying to salvage her image, I think, told her friends she needed space to reassess. "Does she know you're done for good?" "I don't think she believes it yet," I said. "She's used to loopholes. I just removed them." Later that night, I sat in the living room, lights bright, air crisp, dog snoring by my feet, and just existed. No one to entertain. No performance to keep up. No silent treatments disguised as being tired. Just me. And you know what? It didn't feel lonely. It felt honest. That weekend, I went for a long drive. No destination, Just an open road and a playlist full of songs I never got to play because she said they were too sad or too weird. I stopped at a diner 2 towns over, sat at the counter, ordered bacon and eggs and read a local paper like I was some retired detective who'd finally hung up his badge. A woman sat 2 stools down, late 30s, reading a paperback and drinking coffee like it was oxygen. She didn't look up. She didn't need to. We were just 2 strangers, not pretending. I like that. When I got back, there was a letter in my mailbox. Handwritten. No return address, but I knew the handwriting. Grace. Inside was a short note. Jake. I'm sorry for who I became. I don't expect you to forgive me, and I don't ask for it. But I want you to know. I loved you. And maybe that was the problem. I loved you in a way that needed fixing. And you. You were already whole. Gee. I read it once. Then again. Then I put it in the drawer next to the divorce papers. Not out of nostalgia, but as evidence that even she knew I didn't break this. She did. And for once, she told the truth. Life after betrayal is a strange animal. It doesn't roar. It hums. Quietly. Patiently. Like it knows the revenge it's owed is already walking your way in dress shoes. A month after Grace moved out, I was already 10 pounds lighter, sleeping better, and drinking coffee I actually liked. No more oat milk. No more clean-eating fads that tasted like cardboard in a kale wick. The house wasn't just clean, it breathed again. Cooper seemed happier too. Dogs can smell tension. And mine had been inhaling lies for over a year. One Thursday, I got a call from Marcy. We're final, she said. Divorce is processed. Decree issued. You're a free man, Jake. I didn't celebrate. I didn't pour a drink or take a victory lap. I just walked into the bathroom, looked in the mirror, and nodded once. Free. 2 days later, I saw Grace again. Unexpectedly. We crossed paths in a downtown cafe. I was meeting Benny. She was, I don't know, performing. She looked good. Her kind of good. Hair too perfect, makeup just a touch overdone. But her eyes, those were different. No sparkle. Just a searching look, like she was scanning me for a weakness that no longer existed. Jake, she said softly. Grace, I replied, calm. She waited. Maybe for a flicker of pain. A glimmer of regret. Something. But I was clean now. I miss him, she said, nodding toward the dog peeking out of my car window. He doesn't, I said. Then added, he's on a raw diet now. You'd hate it. She let out a breath of a laugh. You look good. I am, I said. Finally. We stood in silence. Then she said it. Was it really all a lie to you? I met her gaze. No, I said. That's what made it hurt. Then I walked inside. Not away. Just forward. Grace tried rebuilding her story. I'd expected it. She'd floated the narrative that we'd grown apart, that she'd lost herself in the marriage, that we were too different. But truth is a quiet warrior. And sometimes it doesn't even need to swing a sword. It just waits while the lies collapse under their own weight. Carmen turned on her. One of Grace's old coworkers ran into Benny at a bar and spilled everything. How Grace had been using the affair as leverage, trying to line up a second act before her first one even closed. Alan Sloan? He moved to Austin. Quiet exit. Real estate rumors said his board nudged him out for optics. Karma loves optics. And Grace? She lost clients. Word spread. Not because I aired it, but because truth tends to trickle through the cracks liars leave behind. Eventually, she stopped posting. Stopped smiling in photos. Her Instagram turned into sunsets and vague quotes about healing. Meanwhile, I was busy living. I expanded my business. Got back in touch with old friends. Started playing pickup basketball again. Nothing heroic, just full-court humility with creaky knees and bad jump shots. And yeah, I dated. Not much. Not seriously. But enough to remember that connection wasn't supposed to feel like a contract with fine print. I met someone eventually. Her name was Claire. She wasn't flashy. She didn't say we need to talk and then launch a monologue. She just showed up. Consistent. Real. Asked questions and actually listened to the answers. And when I told her my story, she didn't flinch. She just reached across the table, took my hand, and said, "You still believe in people?" I smiled. Just not in people who monogram their betrayal. It's funny how revenge doesn't always end with explosions. Sometimes it ends with a man sitting on his porch, coffee in hand, dog at his feet, and peace in his chest. That's how mine ended. I didn't burn her life down. I didn't scream from rooftops or plaster our story online. I let the truth walk through town like it owned the place, because it did. Grace lost me the moment she traded intimacy for secrecy. And I gained everything the moment I realized I didn't need her version of love to be whole. She tried reaching out again. One last time. A letter. Handwritten. Ink smudged. Smelled faintly like that lavender perfume she wore when we first met. It said, "Jake, I don't know who I was with you, or who I thought I needed to be. But I know now. You were the better version of us. You were the honest one. I hope you're happy. I hope I was wrong about what I thought I needed. And I hope, someday, someone loves you the way you tried to love me. Grace _" I didn't cry. I didn't smile. I folded the letter, placed it in a drawer marked history, and poured myself another coffee. Because I am happy. Because she was wrong about what she needed. And because I never stopped being the one thing she couldn't fake. The last honest man.